last couple of years, we have witnessed the benefits of finance and technology together, and the popularity of the fintech sector has been growing tremendously. The pandemic itself changed the way people handle finances. The fintech sector has played a key role in bringing transparency and has made banking facilities easier. However, the sector continues to deal with challenges related to cyber threats and compliance laws, among others. And this is where we can expect the upcoming budget to do something. Let's see what the industry players have to say about this.
Lending fintechs like us, the pandemic had an outsized effect. Initially, we were concerned about loan repayments. Then RBI came with their loan moratorium, which essentially meant we have to give moratorium to anyone who asked for 6 months. So the first 6 months, or almost until August or so, we kind of spent all our efforts educating the consumers on why they should not take moratorium, or if they want to take moratorium, if they're eligible, and how it will impact their long-term financial stability. The banks are literally sitting on piles of cash. That hasn't made its way to small and medium-sized NBFCs and digital lending apps. The Finance Ministry during the peak of the pandemic came up with TLTRO 1.0 and 2.0 to provide accessibility to the NBFCs and fintechs at large, but those funds have never really made it through. Domestic liquidity, as I already pointed out, the banks are shying away from funding fintechs and fintech NBFCs or NBFCs at large. They're more than happy to just sit on their low return, maybe fund a private sector loan somewhere or here or there, but they're not loosening their. So if the Finance Ministry takes a bold move, forces the hand of the bank by challenging them with very low repo rates, which kind of takes away the safety blanket of the no risk return that banks have gotten used to.
In the lending industry, this has been a major challenge because ultimately the final credit risk is taken by the lending industry. I think from that perspective, when you look at it, it's been a disrupting year, very, very impactful on the industry. And for fintechs, since many of them do not have physical presence in a scenario where there is chance of delinquency, this has been an unusually difficult year. Is that they have been hit with a double whammy. One is that they are not profitable and they're burning cash. And at the same time, they are faced with a credit loss or a possibility of a credit loss. So I think, and a lot of their valuations depend on rapid growth, and that's taken a bit of a backseat. For the more developed players, and for players like iFinance, which are actually physically present, and we use a lot of fintech-like technology to access customers, the challenge is still there, and the challenge has been that how do we manage our credit risk parameters, credit losses, etc., and demonstrate to the investors and to the various stakeholders that we are a stable business, we are continuing to stay profitable and continue to see decent credit indicators. There should be improvement in terms of clarity on how the eKYC can be done using Aadhaar. I think in one way, NBFCs have been denied the use of Aadhaar to identify customers, stemming from concerns about privacy. And there I would like to mention that when the customer does not have access to finance, privacy is a much lower concern. First is to get some funding in, and I think we should think of privacy from that perspective, from the perspective of that bottom of the pyramid business. We would like to see peer-to-peer lending to be allowed And today, I think a lot of that peer-to-peer lending has to be done with the help of a bank, because RBI has a view that NBFC should not be allowed to take customer deposits. And there's a nature of customer deposit in a peer-to-peer lending. I believe that should be clarified, because this can be a very interesting product for the excluded micro enterprises.
Overall, credit has definitely come down, at a pan-India level, because, when the real economy, suffers because of the pandemic and, the lockdowns were, policymakers didn't have a choice. They had to lock down. All of this is bound to take a big toll on overall economic activity. So if you look at it that way, credit has come down. But if you look at the proportion of digital credit, digital credit is a small share of the overall credit, especially because it's focused on consumer. I think because of this entire digital push, there's been more good than bad this year. Not just this year, but there's been this overhang of eKYC, right? So for some time it was not allowed after the judgment. Then regulated entities could use Aadhaar-based authentication with consent. eKYC was allowed. So the smaller guys couldn't do it. Now they're having a rethink of the whole thing. If I am able to take my data and share it with anyone of my choice in a secure manner, right, and limit the kind of data that they get to see and the level of access for specific use cases, then I think it will lower the cost of credit. It will make credit more accessible. It will force the incumbent players, the very large banks with low costs of capital, to get more creative, to innovate more, to provide better user experiences, better rates, lend more, or lose to the competition.
A lot of businesses as well as consumers started, adopting to technology tools, and that drove a lot of growth for fintech. And it was not just happening in India, right? It was happening world over. So more and more capital was also flowing, from private equity and VC players to these fintech sectors, which again allowed them to, further fuel their growth. So I think 2020, while it started with a bit of a challenge, the second half has been very positive for the fintech sector in general. One area where I think we would like if the government can think of some alternatives to the zero MDR policy that was announced. I think there could be alternates to drive the same incentives, right? Maybe some kind of tax incentives for SMEs to accept digital payments, because I think having some kind of economics in the MDR is overall good for the payment ecosystem, and that allows for more investments and more innovation to happen in payments, which in the long run will drive greater adoption of payments.